Good afternoon, everyone. Pastor Wil Nichols here. I'm glad that you all have taken the opportunity to join us in our third of four-part series on COVID-19 Jesus, coronavirus Jesus. I always say Jesus because I believe that coronavirus and COVID-19, both of them, all 19 of them, going to have to bow to the name of Jesus. That at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. But I'm excited about today's presentation because we have some great and phenomenal speakers. And today we're going to be dealing with safety and security. We're going to look at physical security of awareness. We're going to look at online security. I was talking with one of our panelists about how I received something on the email telling me to click here because somebody was messing with my credit cards. And I was wondering if that was an online security issue, and she assured me that it was. So we're going to have a great discussion here today. What I'm going to ask you all to do for me is to remain muted. If you have questions of any of our panelists, to please present them in the chat room. If you type in them, I'm going to be moderating and asking the questions. So if you all could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. Because with so many people on, it's going to be difficult for us to mute and unmute, and it just gets noisy and a lot of background noise. So we're going to handle it that way if you all would do it for me. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to give a former bio a little bit later, but I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them. I know what church they go to. I think I know what church they go to. Okay, praise God. So they can tell us a little bit about that. And so we will start with you, Jamison McKire. Introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jamison McKire. I'm a police officer at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Been there for about 3 years. Married, have 2 kids. They're running around upstairs right now. My wife's trying to do her best to keep them quiet for me. So, but I'm blessed to be here and excited to share what I know.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamison. Our second presenter today is going to be Yonique Sutherland, another daughter of the ministry. Yonique, why don't you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about you?
Thank you, Pastor. Hi, everybody. I'm Yonique Sutherland Carter. I've been at VPF for about 9 years now, and I work at Cisco Systems as the People Data Service Risk Manager. And that basically means that I deal with data protection and data privacy for all of Cisco's employees. So I leave the rest for the bio.
All right. Well, thank you, Yonique. And our third presenter, most of y'all know him. He's been with the ministry for probably 20 of 22 years, or maybe a little longer, a little shorter, but thereabouts, and has been instrumental, is now our chief of staff of the ministry. Everett, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, thank you, Pastor. My name is Everette Johnson. A lot of you all don't know me that I have a first name. They mostly call me Johnson or Elder, so I do have a first name. Been in law enforcement now over 31, 32 years. And one of my specialties is dealing with the safety and just giving out, good, simple information how to remain safe. Been married for about 34 of those years. And I've been at VPF for about 21.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And so I'm going to bring up our PowerPoint presentation here and introduce our first speaker. And again, those of you that are joining in a little bit later, we ask you to remain muted. If you have questions, please post them in our chat room. You can address them to anyone specific or to the entire panelists. So thank you all for abiding by those rules. We will be recording this, and we want to make it coherent for those that will be watching it later. So thank you all for this time. And in a minute, I'm going to figure out how to share the screen. I've done it. Now, this is my third time. And I believe I'm getting close to it. And voila, there we go. So we have it ready and going. So you see our 3 panelists, and I'm excited about these individuals who are going to be sharing with us. Let me give you the bio of our first panelist. His name, as he stated earlier, is Jamison McKire. And for some reason, it's taken a while for his bio to come up. Jamison McKire is a police officer at the University of North Carolina. He has been an officer there for over 3 years. Prior to that, he was a senior juvenile probation officer at Broward County, Florida for 6 years, working with troubled youth in the criminal justice system. He is married to his wife, Teresa McKire, and will be celebrating their 5th year anniversary tomorrow. Happy anniversary, man. On the 3rd. They have 2 children, Jackson and Jason, 4 and 1. Jamison received his bachelor's degree in both criminology and religion from Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida. Jamison is a certified instructor in civilian response and casualty care, which trains civilians on how to respond to crisis situations such as active shooters. He is also certified by the FBI as a hostage crisis negotiator. He is certified as a part of the Crisis Intervention Team, CIT, which is training for law enforcement and interacting with members of the community who have mental illness. Jameis has a wealth of experience in dealing with unique potential security issues as it relates to college campuses. Working at UNC with a major hospital in the middle of the campus also adds to possible daily security threats. Jamison believes it to be a privilege to share his knowledge and personal experience to help teach our college students and their parents ways they can stay safe, not only during this critical time, but also on a day-to-day basis while attending the university. And so without further ado, Jamison, it's on you.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor. And like the bio said, I do feel very privileged and honored to do this, just to share simple tips for security for our college students. So first, I just want to talk about crime itself and things that are needed to occur in order for crime to actually happen. So there's 3 things. There's a desire, there's skills and tools, and there's opportunity. So when we talk about desire, it's talking about what I'll call him the bad guy, what the bad guy, their want to commit the crime. So they actually want to actually do something that's illegal. And then you have the skills and the tools, which is either physical, like a crowbar or a knife or anything to break into something, or just a skill set that they have in their mind to actually commit a crime. And of course, then there's an opportunity to commit the crime. So the thing about this is that you can't have one without the other. So you can have a desire and the skill and the skills to do it, but if you don't have the opportunity, then you're not gonna be able to commit a crime. And you can have the skills and the opportunity, but if you don't have a desire to do it, then you're not gonna commit the crime. So one thing we're gonna focus on, the thing we're gonna focus on is actually the opportunity, because that's the one thing that we can actually limit other people, the bad guy, from doing something to us, making us a victim. So the number one way we can reduce our chance of being a victim, and my personal experience is going to be the number one way is increasing our situational awareness. That is something that our situational awareness, of course, is what is us being aware of what's going on around us. Not being in a position where we are just kind of tuned out to the rest of the world, but aware of what's happening. Not necessarily paranoid, but aware. And there's this color-coded system called Cooper's 4-color system that you'll see on your screens there, the white, yellow, orange, and red. We're just going to talk about white and yellow for sake of time, but white is, they say, like being in the white. So you kind of hear it, is being unprepared. You're not ready for anything. That's when you're zoned out. You're kind of just in your own little world. You might be on your phone. You might be listening to music, walking around outside, whatever, but you're not focused on anything but your own self. And that's the place we don't necessarily want to be when we're out and about. If you're home, relaxing, watching a movie, that's one thing. But when you're out and about, you don't want to be in that position. What we do want to be is in the yellow. And the yellow is prepared, alert, relaxed. That's where we have our good situation aware. That's where we are conscious of what is going on around us, and not in the position where we're just not able to see obvious things that are happening, which kind of leads to my story. I want to tell you a quick story. I call it my tree bomb story. So there's this tree on campus at UNC called the Davy Poplar tree. And it's one of the oldest trees on campus. It's kind of a landmark. You can see it in the picture there. So we had a former student who decided that this tree was evil and that the tree had to go. So he actually planted a homemade bomb next to the tree and set it off. And so I was walking around the back area where the tree is, and I just happened to see fire coming up the tree. And I just went to go check and see what was going on. And I got there, there was fire going up the tree, and I was kind of standing next to it, figuring out what was going on, and it exploded. And fortunately, thank God, I wasn't hurt. It was pretty close, but it wasn't close enough to actually hurt me. There was one person who was hurt. And the people around me told me the person who did it was right across the street. So I head over there, racing over there, and there's a man who is half dressed. He doesn't have any pants on, which is important. And he was actually mooning one of the buildings, saying all kind of craziness. So I start to chase him. And while we're chasing him, and I watch my body cam footage of this, I noticed this. So there was this young lady who was walking on campus, and we were heading towards her direction when we were running. And so picture this: you have a man who's half dressed, running, screaming all kind of craziness. You have me, big officer, chasing him, screaming, "Police, stop! Police, stop!" She in the footage, she at no point in time looked up from her phone. She was walking with her phone in her hand. Yeah. And she never looked up. The man half dressed ran right by her. I ran right by her. She never looked up. Okay. So that's being in the white. That's being totally unprepared, not knowing what is going on whatsoever. That's where we don't want to be. That's how you can potentially be in a position where you might be a victim, where you might have avoided it if you just would have noticed it, a half-naked man running towards you, and kind of say, maybe I should go over this way, and just step out the way. So that's where you don't want to be. So in keeping all that in mind, we want to go over some few tips on the next slide. Just keeping all that in mind, security tips. This is kind of geared for college students, but it really applies to everybody. And the number one tip I have, for students who are, and I know a lot of students now are home, but when you return back, this is things you can keep in mind, and for parents, maybe to teach their students. But we want to increase our situation awareness, like I just said. That's such a big piece of the crimes and stuff that I see that happen on campus. A lot of it could have been avoided, might have been avoided, just by simply paying attention to certain things that were kind of out of place. So we want to increase that. We want to lock our room doors and car doors. Sounds simple, but believe it or not, that is something that a lot of students do not do. We had a car stolen recently, where a woman went and turned her car on, started it up, went back in the building for 15 minutes, left it running unlocked, and she came back out and it was gone. So that she created an opportunity for someone to take her car. Someone walked by, saw a car running, and unlocked and decided to take it. Same goes for bicycles. We have a lot of bikes stolen, but buying a good lock, locking up your bicycles will go a long way. Don't leave your belongings unattended. We have a lot of laptops stolen and things like that. But a lot of it's like, we had a student who left his laptop in the library for 3 hours because he wanted to go get something to eat and hang out with his friends. So he just got up, left, and he came back, the laptop was gone. So it's little things like that. A lot of us think, oh, it's common sense, but there's a lot of people who just don't think that way and don't think about that. Traveling in groups at night, it goes a long way. There's strength in numbers. When you're walking by yourself, and a lot of times I see that on campus too, it'd be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I see a young lady just walking across campus, or running, or a young man just walking across campus by themselves. And, it's just, you want to limit the chance for anyone to do something bad to you. Letting your families know about your location. There are plenty of apps out there today where you can share your location very easily, and just letting people know where you are. If you are walking like that or taking a jog or exercise or something like that, letting people know where you are. And then finally, be smart when taking your praise breaks. So what I mean by that is for those of us who did go to college, you know how it can be, and you got your friends and you want to hang out and have fun. And you should have fun and hang out with your friends. But be smart when you do it. Of course, I'm not encouraging drinking or getting drunk or anything like that. But don't put yourself in a position to where you can't defend yourself, where you can't be aware of what's going on around you or stopping them going around you. We don't want to be in that position. So just be smart. Hang out with people you know. When they leave, you leave. You never be by yourself, and just make good decisions. So that's all I have. Just simple little tips. If you have any questions, of course, shoot me them, and I'll answer them if I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamison, for that. And again, if you all have any questions, post them in the chat room. We will be monitoring that. Plus, the panelists will be able to take a look at it and perhaps prepare their answers as we are going through the presentation. So thank you all. Again, everyone, please remain muted. We want everyone to be muted. Let's see here. I want to make sure that we have everyone is muted. If you're not presenting, please go ahead and mute yourself. Then I don't have to mute everybody. Well, I will just real quickly go ahead and mute all one more time since we have so many people on. And our next presenter is Yonique. Give me a minute to bring up her presentation. But we certainly appreciate all of you for joining in. And let me give you the bio of Miss Yonique, which I have it right here. Yonique attended undergraduate college in Virginia, where she earned a bachelor's of science in physics. She went to graduate school and earned an MBA with a focus in finance. She met her husband, Jason, in graduate school. They married and relocated to North Carolina in 2008. They have one son, Jordan, who is almost 6 years old. Yonique is a certified member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals. She has been working in the field for the past 10 years and specializes in personal and employee data protection and privacy. She currently works at Cisco Systems as the People Data Risk Service Manager. She has responsibility for managing the data-related risk across Cisco's 100,000 plus global workforce. In addition to her day job, Yonique consults with small businesses and a regular guest lecturer at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And so without further ado, Yonique Sutherland Carter.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, so the average person doesn't really understand the value of personal information and doesn't really realize how much we actually expose ourselves with our personal information. And so today I wanted to just talk a little bit about what information might be really valuable, to whom, and why we should care about it. So personal data protection is important because there are a number of different types of criminals out there that can leverage our information for different reasons, and they're motivated by different things. So as I focus on online data, I'll talk mostly towards preventing identity theft and financial fraud, but it's important for us to understand that our personal information can be used for a wide variety of things, including ransom scams, cyberbullying, harassment, child manipulation, and even extreme crimes such as sex trafficking and abductions. Even those are possible and start from somebody accessing your personal information. So what information is most valuable to cyber criminals? Now, again, cyber criminals are ones who care mostly about getting your information or getting access to your information for identity theft or financial fraud purposes. So the data that's most important to them would be your social security number, your address, your dates of birth of you and your family members, credit card numbers, login credentials, so that's your username and your passwords, and possible answers to security questions that we would do when we set up our new accounts like banking accounts or such. And a lot of us actually put those answers out there unknowingly when we respond to social media quizzes and things like that. So with that, next slide, please. Thanks. Let's talk about phishing for a minute. So phishing is one of the most popular mechanisms that a cyber criminal will employ to get your data or get access to your data. And the idea is that they'll trick you into giving them the information. Now, to the right of the screen, you'll see an example phishing email. And what I've done is I've outlined in red all of the different components of that email that should be a red flag or a warning to you that this is a fake message. And so I'll just go through from top to bottom, explaining each little section. So first, you should check where your email is coming from. And you want to make sure that, one, you know who it's coming from, and two, you expect the email. If you get an email from, let's say, the World Health Organization, and you don't know anybody at the World Health Organization, and you haven't been doing business with the WHO, then that should be a red flag to you that that's a fake email. You want to check all your email addresses and the website domains to make sure that they're correct. As you can see, this is an email that should be coming from Bank of America, but the domain in the from email is Comcast.net. That's a red flag. It doesn't make sense for a Bank of America email to come from a Comcast.net domain. So you want to check your to fields, your from field, and if there's a reply to field, you want to look there as well. Your email address should be displayed in the to field. And if not your email address, at a minimum, your name. It shouldn't seem to be sent to a wide audience, as in undisclosed recipients. You want to make sure that nothing is hidden, nothing seems to be sort of under the table, because that's shady. Pay attention to the logo. Sometimes these scammers, they mess with the logo. It's a copy and paste, it's Photoshop. So if the logo looks funny in any way, if it's fuzzy, you know, if it's a little stretched like this one or such, that's also a red flag for you. Now, as we move into the body of the email, you want to look at the salutation. Dear customer. Usually official emails are personalized, so you want to see your name there. More formal emails will have Miss, Mr., Mrs., and your last name, but you want to make sure that if your name appears there, that it is spelt correctly. Then in the actual body of the email, you want to look at the how it sounds. Is it casual? Does the email read like you're talking to your girlfriend across the way, or, you know, you're real good, you know, dude? You want to make sure that it sounds the way you expect it to sound. If it's from a business, then it should sound official, you know, and professional. It shouldn't be, you know, well, obviously this happened or so on. Also, the body is where you will see like web addresses, sometimes buttons to click on, and sometimes they even go as far as to explicitly ask you to enter your personal information there. Now, you don't want to do any of those things. You don't want to click on any links, you don't want to click on buttons, and you don't want to enter any personal information. What we can do for buttons and websites is actually hover over it, meaning put your mouse over it, but don't click. And what you will see is the address, the actual web address for where the link leads should pop up right under where your cursor is. If it doesn't, that's also a red flag. Now, emails that and text messages too that are scams that usually come with a sense of urgency, meaning you must act now or else, or a threat. If you don't do this, then I'm going to close your account, or then you won't be able to get this money or whatever. Those are also red flags. They are designed to fluster you. They're designed to make you anxious and to respond, with that emotion. You need to be calm, and instead of clicking, actually go to the official website, so Bank of America, and log into your account there. You should see similar messaging if the communication was real. Also, I mentioned looking for misspellings. You should look out also for grammatical errors, lowercase letters where they should be uppercase. All of these things indicate that it's an email that's fake, or at least not very well put together. Just as in the beginning, where things shouldn't seem to be hidden or sent to a mass population, in the end, you want to make sure that your email doesn't end anonymously. Like, normally these things come with a name, sometimes a signature, but here it says customer service team. And of course, if your email has an attachment with it, this one doesn't, then you don't want to click that attachment. Those links and attachments will carry viruses, malware, ransomware, the intent of which is to either embed software on your device that when you go into your legitimate account, it actually steals your login information and then goes in there and move your money, pretty much. So you don't want to click on these things. Next slide, please. All right, so here are some additional things that we can do to protect ourselves besides just noticing phishing attempts. You want to make sure that you're using passcodes and passwords for all your devices. And by devices, I mean your cell phone, your tablets, your laptop, your Wi-Fi at home, anything that's connected to the internet, you should secure it with a passcode or password. And those passwords that you use should be unique per device and should be strong. And what I mean by that is that you want to use a different password for every account you have and for every device. And you want to use a password that somebody cannot easily guess. Don't use your nickname, your middle name, your date of birth, something like that. You want to use a password that has random numbers, letters, and special characters. And then you might ask, how are you going to remember all these passwords? Well, in the link, below that I've provided, I've given you a reputable password manager that comes highly recommended to me, and so I pass it on to you. You can find that at onepassword.com. There is a small cost associated with it. It's $3 a month, approximately. That said, if that's too much of a stretch for you, because in these times it may very well be, others have been known to actually write their passwords down in, let's say like a little notebook or so on. But let me be clear, you really should not be writing down your passwords. What you don't want to do is write that password down on a Post-it note and stick it on your device. It defeats the whole purpose of setting a password. So if you're going to write down your passwords, I recommend writing them all down in the same place and then securing that notebook like you would your social security card or something that like your whole life depends on it. Don't pass it around. So Beyond that, we want to limit our social media sharing. Right now, as we're all at home, the internet has become our best friend. And there are lots of quizzes and things going on social media that ask you, you know, answer these 10 questions and tell us about yourself, or tell us about your family member, tell us about a trip or something. Every single answer that you give is a potential answer to a security question. So you want to avoid those things, and you want to be wary of free Wi-Fi hotspots when you go out shopping or you're just out and about. We want to always be connected, but you want to understand that free Wi-Fi means unsecured internet access. Anything that you do on your device when you're connected to a free Wi-Fi connection can be tapped by anybody out there. If you have a business, a good idea would be to have a VPN, which is a virtual private network, which extends your personal private network to all of your devices. So no matter where you are, you can connect to that free Wi-Fi through your VPN, thereby securing your connection. For individuals who are interested in a VPN, that's a good idea, but it's not recommended as long as you secure your personal network. So with all of your online accounts, so these might be old email accounts or such, you want to make sure that if you're not using them anymore, you actually do close them. And the reasoning behind that is that if they are hacked, any personal information that may be contained within them can be used against you. And so you don't want to just forget about them. Just go ahead, close them, do a little house cleaning, and make sure that all your accounts are still current and that you're monitoring. So now I'll talk a little bit about children's safety online. To protect our children, we want to configure parental controls on all the devices that our children use. So tablets, televisions, and even on the software, the actual account. So if your child has an email address, or if they have some of those apps that are directed to children, you want to set your parental controls there as well. You monitor your children's activities online. You, as a parent, you should always know what your child is doing, who they're talking to, what they're looking at, to ensure that they're not consuming any inappropriate content and they're not talking to anybody that they shouldn't be talking to. And this is particularly important if your child is a gamer, because in games, it's common that bad actors or the bad guys will befriend your child, and they'll chat to them during the gaming, develop a relationship. And once that relationship is cemented, they will ask your child about anything they want to ask them about that happens in the household, or even lure them away from your home or from school. So it's very important that you stay engaged and understand what's happening with your child's online activities. You also want to be connected to your child online, in social media and so on. Friend your child, have a conversation with them about what information is safe to share and what is not safe to share. And so you do want to friend them, particularly for younger kids and preteens, to ensure that the information they do put out there is information that's safe, that's not going to hurt their reputation, their chances of getting into college, getting a job, or even endangering themselves or the family. And of course, we want to set time limits for our children. Bad actors usually play at night. So we want to, not that they're not there during the day, but they're prevalent at night. So you want to set time limits and adhere to that. That also helps to reduce screen time and helps to instill a certain discipline around how much time folks spend online. Again, you want to have a good conversation with not only your child, but all your family members, particularly your seniors as well, about what might be inappropriate content or behavior from friends and other entities in an online environment. You want to be careful of the apps that you download. You want to get your apps from your device's app store. So from the Google App Store, from the Apple App Store, because Google and Apple will screen for certain security issues. Usually the apps there are legit, not always 100%, but usually they are. You absolutely don't want to download an app from someplace that you don't know unless you have checked it out. And to check it out, you can just do a quick search about that app, read the reviews, see what people think, look at the problems people have had with the makers or the app or so on before you trust it. Don't just download everything on your devices. And then also two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication is a good thing to have. Most companies like bank, financial institutions and so on actually make you do two-factor authentication. This is basically when they say, okay, register your cell phone, for example, so that we can push a code to your cell phone when you go to log in, and then you put your login, you put that code back in to get into the application. Basically, it's putting another layer on top of just entering your password to access your sensitive information. When you are going on websites that require payment, you want to look for HTTPS in the web address on the payment screen. And then additionally, there should be a lock as well in that browser address bar. That both of those things are indicators that the site is secure. If you see neither of the two, then you should be hesitant to actually make a payment on that site. And finally, you want to stay current. Keep your ear to the news and to what's going on around you, because threats are always evolving. Or the cyber criminals are really creative, and every year or so, a whole new set of threats emerge. So you stay on top of it so that you can understand how to protect yourself. And I have put a link at the very bottom of the screen. Have you been pawned without the A? If you go to that website, you can actually enter any email address that's yours. So if you have 3 email addresses, enter each one of them one at a time, and you can see if that email address has shown up on any black market dealings, if it's been pawned, hacked, something like that. If you see that you've been hacked, which it's very common that you would be, then don't panic. Change your password. Change it to a strong, unique password. And I've also included some coronavirus specific information in the top 2 links for you, that you can look at what the current scams are for this, specifically around the coronavirus pandemic. And of course, if you are scammed, if you come across a scam, you can feel free to report it to the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission. And so if you have additional questions, do put them in the chat. I'll be looking for them, and I'm happy to answer them for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Yonique. That was phenomenal. I'm putting one question in there myself. What is ransomware? How do you spell ransom? R-A-N?
S-O-M.
Is that one word or 2?
One word.
All right. Very good, Yonique, and thank you again for that powerful presentation. This final panelist, and again, those of you that are on, we certainly appreciate you all being on. I see that we have quite a few questions starting to come into the chat room. Again, please remain muted. Put your questions in the chat room. I will be moderating those as soon as we finish with our final presenter, which I'm excited to present at this time. And I thought I had pulled his bio up. I did. Elder Everette Johnson, our chief of staff and elder at the ministry. Elder Everette Johnson was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but moved to Durham, North Carolina at an early age, where he grew up. He attended Durham Public Schools and graduated from Durham High School. Elder Johnson attended Fayetteville State University, where he served as student body president. He graduated from FSU with a Bachelor of Science degree in political science. Special note, Elder Johnson wants to know, he wants you to know he graduated. Thank you, Lottie. Soon after graduation, he entered into law enforcement. He worked for Chapel Hill Police Department for 21 years. During his tenure, he shattered what some considered a glass ceiling by achieving the rank of captain and thus becoming the first and highest ranked Black officer in the history of the department. After leaving Chapel Hill, he went to work for North Carolina State Capitol Police Department, where he's currently employed. He holds the rank of sergeant and is over the department's training division. When Elder Johnson is not enforcing the laws of the land, he is enforcing the word of God. He was baptized in the name of Jesus and filled with the Holy Ghost in 1982 while attending Greater Emmanuel Pentecostal Temple under the leadership of Bishop Marion E. Wright Sr. He began bootleg preaching in 1983 and was ordained a minister of the gospel in 2002 under the leadership of Pastor Wil Nichols, Victorious Faith Fellowship Church of God in Christ. He attended the 2-year Church of God in Christ Academy, where he was ordained an elder and graduated with honors. Elder Johnson and his wife Phyllis of 34 years worked side by side in ministry. Elder Johnson served as the chief of staff to Superintendent Wil Nichols, which makes him responsible for the day-to-day operations of the ministry. He and his wife also are responsible for the evangelism division and consist of the food pantry, street team ministry, intercessory prayer team, prison ministry, culinary, security, and several other ministries. Elder Johnson's favorite scripture is Luke 10:17. And the 70 returned again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils are subject unto us through thy name. He truly believes that a person does not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so without further ado, let me see if I can bring this up properly. I don't know why I don't see, hold on, give me a minute, y'all. Okay, there we go. All right, as soon as I do my screen share, we will get started with Elder Johnson. I think we will. And so without further ado, Elder Johnson.
Thank you, Pastor. One thing that you'll find even on my slides, I got several, so we won't necessarily have to go through the slides. I'm just going to hit some areas that are important to us. And I'm going to pick up where Jamison left off his story about the young lady with the telephone. It's interesting because we must have run across the same person because as I was leaving out of an area, I watched a woman on her phone walking across the parking lot. And she was staring at her screen so much that a car literally had to slam on brakes to keep from running into her. She never looked up, never saw the vehicle that almost hit her. And so with that being said, it's important that we learn to be alert. We've got to stay alert everywhere we go. The bad guy takes advantage of our situation. He takes advantage of us not paying attention to what's going on around us. And so that's how we become victims so easily. So the 3 areas I want to touch on, when we're out and about in public areas, when you're in your vehicles, and when you're at home. So when you're learning to protect yourself, you got to stay alert, number 1. Secondly, you got to be confident. If you don't feel confident, you'll walk around looking that way. You'll have your head down. You'll avoid eye contact with people. Well, why is that important? Because what the bad guy's looking for, he wants to know that, hey, I can take advantage of this person because number 1, they're not even paying attention that I'm around them. We've had situations where people have gone to the bank, to the teller machine. They're busy counting their money and don't realize you've got somebody standing right next to you, right behind you. And they literally, when you walk out of the building, run beside you, get your attention and snatch your money. That has happened. And so that means that we're not paying attention to our surroundings. We're not paying attention to what's going on around us. Secondly, you got to learn to trust your instincts. We have got to almost think like the criminal thinks. If you don't feel comfortable with the situation, you drive up to a store, a lot of people hanging around. Don't go into that store. There are lots of other stores that you can patronize. If it doesn't look right, then something is wrong. Trust your instincts when you're out and about. Got a lot of people that are walking in neighborhoods. They're enjoying well, not necessarily enjoying the time off, but they're exercising. Well, they've got their headsets on. They've got the earplugs in their ears, not even paying attention to what's around them. They can't even hear you if you call out to them. They can't even hear if someone comes up behind them. So you got to be mindful when you're out and about. If you're going to wear the earplugs, wear one in your ear. Don't have both your ears clogged up where you can't hear a thing at all. When you're out on foot, make sure you're in areas that you are familiar with. Don't take these shortcuts and so forth where you think, well, I can get from point A to point B and nobody will notice me. When you've got to go to the ATM machines, avoid these ATM machines at night. If you've got to go to an ATM machine after hours, use the drive-up ones. Get as close to the actual machine as you can. There was a robbery that took place. The gentleman came up in front of the vehicle, and this lady was at a drive-thru, and the person was on the other side, and they managed to rob her. My question was, why? She failed to lock her door, number one, and secondly, the person standing in front of my car, it's kind of hard to rob me if you're in front of my car, and I've got it in drive. It's going to be real difficult. So I'll let you all choose what direction to go in, but that robbery will not be successful that particular night. Always be comfortable in what you're wearing. If you have to have clothes, your clothes are not baggy, they're not holding you down. I caught a guy one day because why? He ran from me and his pants was hanging off, and that's what tripped him up, and I was able to catch him without a problem. When you're out and about in your car, your doors, if they don't automatically lock, make sure as soon as you get in, you lock them. But before you jump in your car, you need to be looking around. Make sure you're parked in a well-lit area so that as you come to your car, nobody's hiding in it. Nobody's hiding underneath it. If you find your car's been broken into, don't go rummage around trying to figure it out. Back away, go back into a place where you're safe and call the police. But make sure you check your vehicle. Make sure your vehicle's in good running order. You got gas in it. You know, don't do like I won't call his name, but he's my son. He likes to see how long his red light will stay on his vehicle as he's driving. I never understand that. So make sure that you have sufficient gas and your vehicle is running properly. If you have to, unfortunately, take public transportation, don't be ashamed to let somebody know if they're invading your space. Right now, I know we are talking about social distancing. Let them know, sir, ma'am, you need to back up. And speak to them in a voice where they understand that you mean business. Let them know that, look, I realize that you're aware that you are around me. If you're walking down the street somewhere and someone is behind you, don't be ashamed to stop and look around. If you have to cross the street, do that. But make sure that you have distance, because remember, distance is your friend and is something that you can use to your advantage. Unfortunately, if you are attacked, have a plan of what you're going to do. You can't defend yourself if you didn't think beyond the fact of, hey, what if? So from this point on, I want you all to learn to play a game in your mind. What if? What if I pull up to this store and somebody's there? What am I going to do? What if I stop at a stop sign or stoplight and somebody gets in my car because I failed to lock it? What if these things occur? What am I going to do? You can't make that decision when it happens. You need to have it in mind as to what you're going to do if it does occur. Well, now that a lot of us, unfortunately, are having to stay at home, there's some things that we need to know. If you get someone that comes to your door, don't ignore your doorbell because you don't want to confront or have to deal with somebody trying to sell something. Let them know that somebody's at home. So if your doorbell rings, look out, and not only look out, but you actually say something. Can I help you? But you do it from behind a closed door. Never open up your door to someone that you don't know, someone you haven't invited to your house, someone you weren't expecting. If you've got a service person that's coming out, they normally will give you an idea who it's going to be. And there's an app that will let you know that they're on their way and that they have arrived. If you have not done so, get some kind of a security system at your house. Security systems now are pretty inexpensive. You can get it installed. Make sure it gives you an idea if a door's open. It notifies the police. Those things. It's important that when we leave our home, we leave it as if it's occupied, because the bad guy, in order to know that you're not there, he pays attention to what you're doing. And so if you have to go out of town, used to be, we would say, you not let the mailman know not to deliver the mail. No, we don't know who the mailman is nowadays. We don't know who these folks are or what they've done. So let someone, a trusted neighbor, a trusted relative know that, hey, not going to be at home, need you to check the stuff, need to check my mail, have rotating lights that come on and off. Use the lighting system that you can plug your lights in. They'll go off with a timer and come back on with a timer, and so forth. These are things that you've got to do in order to keep the criminal on his toes. Also, if you find yourself in a situation when you go into these stores, when you're at home, you should always have a plan for escape, a route for escape. Anytime I go into a store, I'm looking for the nearest exit. Anytime I'm going into a restaurant, I want to know, well, where's those exit doors? I'm not going to sit with my back to the door. I'm going to make sure I can see people coming and going. I want to make sure that where I am, if I have to leave, I can do that. My wife and I have a deal that if I'm ever out and about in public and something goes down, a threat, a shooting or whatever, she knows that she can't stay with me, because what she's going to do is she's going to hinder me, because I'm going to be concerned about protecting her. She knows to go in opposite direction. Those of you that have children, talk to your children. If something happens and we're in a public place, where do we go? What do we do? What direction do we go in? You have to pre-plan these things. If you wait until it happens, you won't be able to get out. If you're confronted in your neighborhood or community and you must yell for help, yell fire. Fire gets the attention of some of everybody. It lets folks know that, hey, things are going on, something is not right, and people are more apt to pay attention. I know she talked about fraud and she talked about scams. It's interesting. I had a call the other day and somebody said, well, look, the IRS called and said, they got warrants for me. If I don't come downtown, if I don't send them this money, they're going to come and arrest me. The IRS ain't going to call you on the phone. They're not going to call you and tell you they're going to arrest you. The people that if you got jury duty, they're not going to call you on the phone and tell you they're going to arrest you. If they're going to arrest you, if there's an arrest warrant, they're going to come to your house and serve it on you. So don't let folks scare you into giving information about yourself on the phone, because that's not the way the government works. That's not the way departments work. If I've got a warrant for you, I know your address, I'm going to come and get you, and so forth. You never give your credit card information out unless you're someone or a place that you have made the first contact with. And finally, think outside the box. When we're dealing with people, when we're dealing with criminals, criminals take advantage of our shortcomings. That means they pay attention to us. In order for me to attack you, in order for me to rob you, it's not something that I just automatically think of. I have planned it. I've watched your movement. I watch all those things you do. As we're out and about, when we return back to our normalcy and go to work, how many of you all go to work the same way? Deviate your plan. Do things different. Don't become a creature of habit, because once that happens, that's where the bad guy takes advantage of us. And I believe that's it. So be safe. Remember, think outside the box. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Elder Johnson. That was phenomenal. And we certainly appreciate everyone and all of the presenters. So now we're going to take a few minutes to answer some of the questions that you all have posed. Again, if you have any question or anything comes to your mind, feel free to post them in the chat room. So this first person says, will the PowerPoint presentation of these sessions be sent? And the answer is yes. As soon as we finish the final one on next Tuesday, which I will go ahead and promote that, yours truly, along with two others, will be doing a presentation on end times, coronavirus, and is this a sign of the times? And is this one of the 7 plagues that's supposed to happen? Do I need to go get some blood of a goat and a sheep and put it on my doorpost? And all of those types of things. What about, are they trying to kill us off? And all of that. So we're going to have that on next Tuesday. Do not miss that presentation on end times and other signs. So how does one become civilian emergency certified? I think that may be for you, Jamison.
Oh yeah, so that was what it is. It's a course. It teaches law enforcement to teach a course on to civilians on basically how to respond, primarily during active shooter situations. So it's a course that I'm now technically certified to teach, to put on presentations. So I actually just got certified in it like in February, right before everything got crazy. And so I didn't have a chance to actually do it yet. So, because you can't have groups now. So, but I'm working with the person at my department who does it regularly. So, but yeah, that's something I'll be willing to do once I feel more proficient at it.
All right. Yonique, is password.com anything like LastPass? Also, do we retrieve our passwords from password.com?
Okay, so LastPass is very similar to onepassword.com. I think it does a little bit more than what onepassword.com does. They're two slightly different offerings in that LastPass will store your passwords, your help to monitor logins for different apps, help to store, I think, documents and notes and things like that as well. Whereas 1Password is really more focused on the security of you as an individual, a team, as in a business or a family or something like that. And in both of the apps, you would enter a password like a master password to get into that app. And then it would help to either generate long, strong, unique passwords that you can use, or you can enter the password that you have set for different apps and tools and so on, and it will sort of keep it for you. So you only really have to remember just 1Password to access it.
Yonique, while we are on you, can you talk about a ransomware?
Sure. Ransomware is it's an attack such that, let's say you click on a link or an attachment or something like that that has malware embedded in it. What that malware does is it basically takes over your device. So if you're talking about your phone or your computer, this malware will go in, it will capture all of your information that's on your computer. And I mean everything, your pictures, your music, anything that's important to you, not just your login information. And what it will do, it will lock your password, your device, or lock off a section of your device and push to you messaging which says, pay me $1 million or pay me this if you want your device back, or if you want your information back. Or it may actually capture the information and threaten, if you don't pay some amount of money, that they will expose that information or post it somewhere. And that's basically the virtual iteration of what it means to take somebody for ransom.
All right, thank you very much. This one is for Everette. Talk about, I know that right now we are shelter in place, but you have for years been responsible for security in group settings, especially our church. So talk to us a little bit about security when we come to church, people armed, not armed. Are people armed? What if I have a carry to conceal permit? Talk to us a little bit about security and being armed and what people should do and should not do in a mass gathering situation, especially a church.
Well, one of the things is it's kind of like Jamison was talking about when it comes to active shooter. Everybody wants to have a weapon now. Everybody wants to be prepared. One of the problems is that if you're not trained with that weapon, then you definitely don't need to be carrying it, number one. Number two, every business has either or are posting whether you can bring weapons into their business or not. And if that posting is there, it'll either say you can't have a concealed weapon or you can't bring a weapon at all. And that's exactly what it means. So when you go, if you have a carry concealed permit and you approach a business, you need to be looking for that posted on the out front or the door somewhere. If that is out there, then you technically cannot bring that weapon into a church or a building of any type. It's important that people remember that, because you can get yourself in a world of trouble. If you have a carry concealed permit and you stop by law enforcement, that's one of the first things you need to be uttering is that I have a carry concealed permit and I have my weapon on me.
Well, let me ask you this, and either you or Jamison can answer this. So since we're in an open carry state, is there a problem with us wearing our hoodies and our covering our faces for the virus and walking around with our lone guns? Seem like that should not be a problem.
Well, I'm going to take the first stab at it, and I'll let Jamison jump in there. Technically, because it's an open carry state, you can carry your weapon anywhere in public. If it is posted, you can. For example, in Raleigh, you cannot bring it on the Capitol grounds. You cannot bring it on the governor's mansion and so forth. If it is not posted and it's a private establishment, they can dictate you can't bring your weapon in here. Unfortunately, that's what we had on yesterday. These guys walking around with they call it their Second Amendment right, that they can walk around and carry their weapon. So technically, they can do that.
Yeah, technically, yeah, you can.
Yeah, right.
I won't say if that's the wisest thing to do.
So you're trying to tell me it's a problem with a black man with a hoodie with his his mask on, walking around with a long gun? That's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. If that's what you want to do, that's what you can do. But I think
there's a problem for him.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, we may be law enforcement, but we understand the times. Even I know we're dealing with this whole thing right now with the virus, but before that, we were dealing with a lot of things about police and I got to tell a lot of people I've been a police officer for 3 years, but I've been black for 33. So
right.
A little bit more versed in those issues I've dealt with growing up. So, just be smart about certain things. Yeah, it is your right. You can't have the right to do that. But if you're going to do that, I hope you have a good reason for doing that, walking around, carrying. But it's not probably something I'll teach my sons to do. Again, if that's what you want to do, it is your right to do it. So.
But you are going to have an issue if you are black and carry a gun around. Now I'm going to be just open and I'm going to be just frank with you. You're going to have more of an issue, unfortunately, if you're black and carry your weapon around. Even it's illegal to do so.
Johnson, someone wants to know what is bootleg. I think you said you was a bootleg preacher. Maybe you want to explain that to them.
That's preaching without a license. That's going out there and every chance you get when you do the announcements, you throw a sermon in there real quick. If I'm going to introduce somebody, I'll throw a sermon in there real quick.
All right. This one, I guess, could be for Yonique. How do you advise, and guide young adults and teens to be aware of identity theft? Mm-hmm. I have a 20-year-old who is very smart, arrogant, and prideful. Consequently, convincing him to guard his information with his life may prove challenging.
Sure. So identity theft is something that if it's stolen, it would usually hit your credit report. So what I would suggest is to monitor your credit. Each of the three credit reporting agencies allows us to get a free report once a year. So what you can do is actually stagger that. So you go to TransUnion and you get a copy of your report. 4 months later, you go to Equifax, then you get a copy of your report. And 4 months later, you go to Experian, which is the other one, and get a copy of your report. Now, your report is not going to tell you your credit score, but it will tell you all the transactions that are affecting your credit. That's where you will see if you have credit card bills or a credit card out there that you didn't know about, a new bank account that you didn't know about, or something like that. So if somebody steals your identity and is using your social security number for anything financial, it will show up on your credit report. So that's one way to monitor it. If you actually have your identity stolen, of course, you report it to the credit reporting agencies, you report it to law enforcement, but North Carolina allows specifically for freezing your credit at no cost to you. That's a state provision. You, again, can work with the credit reporting agencies to freeze your credit or your child's credit, since it shouldn't be in use while they're a minor. So that's how you can monitor your identity. I should mention that a good indication that your identity has been stolen is if you're getting calls from debt collectors and you don't have debt, or if you're getting mail, credit card offers to like your 4-year-old child, then that's a good idea that that child's identity might have been compromised. So anything that looks a little weird from a financial perspective should be saying, okay, somebody is doing something with my social security number or with my accounts.
Okay. Let me stay with you just a minute. I
Sure.
see this question about, I haven't heard of this before. Should everyone purchase secure account insurance uh, um, that will have financial coverage for loss and ID fraud? I think I may have seen a commercial about that. I've also seen something lately about home title lock, about locking your title. I, you know, I don't know that those are scams, but I don't know that they're necessary. Can you talk about that?
So I agree with you, Pastor. They're not absolutely necessary, particularly in this time when you should be really monitoring what you're spending on. I would not suggest that everybody go out and buy these things. These are the things like above and beyond, that you do. You can adequately protect yourself without these things. And there are lots of laws and provisions around that we can take advantage of. Like I was mentioning with the credit reporting agencies, they offer a lot of protections that the average person, isn't even aware of. A lot of companies, if you work for a big company, part of their benefit package might include credit monitoring or identity monitoring, things like that. Leverage those things if you have not been. If you're not employed, then you can look into other credit identity monitoring things, provisions to help you. But actually having those secured, like insurance, rebuilding tools is above and beyond, because many of the identity monitoring offerings will do those same things for you.
All right. Last couple of questions. Maybe Everett and Jamison can answer this one. The question, somebody said, when should you call 911? And I guess I want to add a little bit to that. I was in an accident recently, fender bender, and we exchanged insurance information, and the guy was okay. I was okay. The cars were drivable. So I left. After I left, the person called the police and did a report. And then my insurance called me and tried to say I was liable, but luckily I had taken some pictures and I sent them in, and so my insurance denied their claim that I was liable. But I didn't realize, because I guess I thought that you don't need to call police anymore in accidents, but just that in specific, and then in general, calling 911.
Well, as far as the accident, I mean, with me, I would call every time, honestly, just because situations just like that, where people, whenever you do that exchange, and it's usually quicker because the police can take a while to get there, but you run that risk of the person maybe saying, well, I had that plenty of times where people come to me and said, yeah, we had an accident about 2 weeks ago, and I'm trying to put the information in, and all of it's fake. Or, now we got to try to track this person down. So if you're ever in an accident, even something minor, just call the police, do a quick report. That way it's cemented and documented what happened right then and there for your insurances. No one can go back later and say one way or the other what happened. And then as far as generally, as far as calling the police, if you feel like you need to call, if you're even thinking about calling the police for a situation, call. Don't wait. It's the whole saying, better safe than sorry. Just call. I mean, we're working, we're getting paid to be there anyway. So just go ahead and call us. We'll come out. And if it's something just minor and maybe it was nothing at all, maybe just we're hearing something, then great. We'll check it out, make sure everything's okay. But you don't want to try to call the police when you're in the situation. So if you're feeling like you need to call the police, if you're thinking that in your mind, just go ahead and do it. Just call us and we'll come right out there and do our job.
And I agree with Jamison, because the thing is, they say, what's suspicious? Anything that gets your attention, anything that you thought you saw, call the police. We'll always determine whether we need to come out or not, but it's always easy to make that phone call, let them make the determination if they got to come out. If you're involved in an accident, yeah, you may want to report it, because everybody wants to run a scam and so forth. And helping out on the fraud and so forth. The state of North Carolina, remember, has a Secretary of State's office. They have the Insurance Commission. If you ever feel like there's a scam that's happened on those levels, those 1-800 numbers, the North Carolina Justice, the Attorney General's office, you can call them about anything and report those kinds of things that you think you've been taken advantage of.
All right. Listen, I said one more, but I got two more. I promise these are the last two. The first one, I want to go to Yonique. Explain pond again. I hadn't heard that before. And if you have been, if they say that there is a breach, is there something serious? Is that something serious, and how do you rectify it?
Sure. If your email address has been pawned, what it means is that somebody has stolen your login credentials for your email address. So your password is out there. So what do you do? Is this serious? What do? You immediately change your password to your email account, and you don't use the old password anywhere else. What hackers will do is, once they get a hold of a password that they know is real and it works, they will try it on every single account that they suspect you have to see if they can get in. This is why it's important to use different passwords for different devices and accounts. And then you want to make sure that, okay, nobody has actually used it yet. So just having the password is one step. Them actually using it to do something will show up in different ways. So you might see strange transactions from your bank account, as if you went into online banking and did the transaction yourself, or you may start hearing your friend say, hey, I got this weird email from you or this weird thing from you, and you didn't send anything. So if things like that start happening, then you know that, okay, somebody is actually using your password or your account to do something. If it's really serious, you may need to shut down the account, just close it altogether. If it's not serious, then just changing your password should help. But it really depends on how much they've done with it so far. And if you go on haveibeenpawned.com, what it will show you is if your email address has ever been pawned. So after you change your password and all that, you're going to still see that email address show up there. So don't be alarmed that it's still there after you change your password. Just know this has happened in the past and it will show up. It will continue to show up. What you're doing is after you check it the first time, you look for new things after that.
All right, thank you. Final question this time. Can you all talk about stand your ground law? That was real big in the news a while back. People were getting shot because they felt threatened. And so can y'all talk about that? I don't know if that's something here in North Carolina or not.
We technically don't have what you call a stand your ground law. We have something where you can protect yourself. And the law looks at it that if I am being attacked, my response is if a person is fighting me with their fist, that's technically what I can use to protect myself is my fist. If they bring a weapon, then I can use a weapon and so forth. So it's more down the line, whatever the attacker is doing to you, you can bring that much response back to them. Now, if it's a situation where people will ask, well, when can I shoot somebody in law enforcement? If it's a situation where my life is in danger, another person's life is in danger, then we can use what we call deadly force. And for those of you that's considering getting a weapon, the question I'll ask you, can you take another person's life? If you cannot take another person's life, if you hesitate that, you're not the person that needs the gun. And I'm gonna tell you that right now. So on stand your ground, it's using whatever force is necessary to protect yourself that is reasonable at the time. And you have to be able to articulate that, number one, your life, that you felt your life was in danger at the time. And so you did what you had to do to survive.
All right. Thank you all. Everette, Jamison, Yonique, this was phenomenal. I certainly appreciate it. And I am certain that our viewers appreciated it. We will be posting this on Facebook and YouTube. So those of you, if you know someone that could use this information, direct them to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. They will be able to watch this. And after we finish the session on Tuesday, we will have a little package that people can access the videos as well as the PowerPoint presentation. So again, thank you, Jamison, Yonique, and Everette for your time, and to everybody who took the time to come out. And y'all join me tomorrow at church. I got a word. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss part 2 of No Fear. I promise you, you don't want to miss it. And then on next Tuesday, the presentation on end times. God bless you. You all have a great and awesome evening.
Very good.
Yonique, I can't remember all those